Welcome back to our Trace YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this double puffy sleeve. Okay, we'll be achieving this without the use of elastic. We'll just be using the basic board sleeve pattern to gather this together. It's a very simple tutorial and I'm sure you enjoy this. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this sleeve, you need your basic sleeve block like this. Okay, so I have my basic sleeve block and the length I'm working with is around 14 inches with allowance. I want the sleeve to stop around the elbow area. So you need this basic sleeve block and also your, if you don't know how to draft this, sorry, we already have a video on the channel on how to draft a basic sleeve block. Okay, so this is going to be a double puffy sleeve. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to locate the midpoint of this sleeve. So I have 14 inches, the midpoint is going to be around 7 inches, which is around here. Okay, so after locating the midpoint of this sleeve now, I'm going to rule it to form a straight line so that it will guide me when I'm plaiting. Okay, so this is going to be the first part of my puffiness and this is the second part. So let's say you want it to be like 3 puffy sleeve. It means you have to divide this into 3 and then you rule it just exactly the way we've done this. So now to create our puffiness, we're going to be doing something different. You can actually cut it in a straight form, but if we want it really puffy and bouncy, we're going to be cutting it in form of a flare. Okay, so now we're going to be cutting a 360-degree flare, and the radius of our flare, we'll be using this as our circumference. That is the armhole measurement. So now I'm just going to measure around my armhole to see what I have there, and here I have around 17 inches. So the 17 inches that I have, I'm going to divide by 6.28. It's a constant. If you don't know how to draft flares, we already have a channel on it. We already have a video on it also on the channel, so if you want to check the video out also. So on that measurement, I'll be dividing it by 6.28 to get the radius of my flare. So if you want it to be exact, you just need to use that, but if you want to add a little guidance on the upper part also, just add something to it. So for me, that measurement is giving me about 2.8 or thereabouts, so I'll just approximate it to 3 inches and I'll be using 3 inches as my radius. So the length of my flare now, how you can determine the length of your flare is you can just measure what you have here. Remember the flare goes here, so I have around 7.5 here. So if you have 7 inches there, you can add maybe 5 inches to it so that you can have a really bouncy effect, or you can just double what you have there if you have enough fabric. So like I have 7 inches here now, 7.5. So if I double that, I'll have 15 inches. That is if I have enough fabric, but since I don't have enough fabric, I'll just add like maybe 1 2 3 4 or thereabouts. So I'll just make the length of my flare 12 inches so that it will give me that puffiness. But if you have more fabric, you can use more. So now to do that, now remember the radius I'm working with is 12 inches and the total length of my sleeve is going to be 15 inches. It's going to be 12 inches, so radius is 3 and the length is 12 inches. So 12 plus 3 is going to give me 15 inches. So that is what I'm going to use to fold my fabric, and I'll be folding it into 4. So I'm using the 15 inches as my measurement, so I folded it into 2 and then I'm going to fold it into 4 again. So I'm sure by now we should know how to draft a 360-degree flare. Okay, so I have the 2 flares like this now. The upper part, the radius is 3 inches, and from the radius downwards is the 12 inches length that I'm working with, as you can see here. So now I'm just going to open one end of the sleeve on the flare. Okay, I'm going to open it on one end and then I'm going to spread it out so that we can see what we have. This is a full circle flare. Okay, now so because this is going to be attached to our basic sleeve here, you can see, so even from the basic sleeve you will see that the underarm area when we were drafting our basic sleeve, you can see that it's a bit lower than the apex, which is the starting point here. So here is a bit lower, it's curved to meet the underarm area. So in order for my flare to be balanced around this place, so that my underarm, the flare will not be too much hanging down under the underarm. So for it to be balanced with the upper part here, which is longer than the lower part, which is the underarm, I'm going to be retracing it. So I'll put this on fold. I'll put the flare on fold now, and then I'm going to measure. So this open place here is going to be what is going to fall like on our underarm area. So on this underarm area now, I'm going to be going down by 2 or 3 inches. So I'll take my taper now and then measure like 2.5 inches or 3 inches. Okay, so let's say I'm measuring 3 inches, then I'm going to be connecting these 3 inches to around the midpoint of the sleeve, okay, which is around here. So now I'm going to cut out that part. So that part is actually not compulsory if you don't mind, but I want the full neck to be balanced. So I don't want one to be hanging more than the other. That is why I'm trimming this part off. Okay, so after trimming this off, this is what I have now. So I'll do the same thing for the other flare also. Now we can attach it to our basic sleeve. So this sleeve is not going to be having an elastic. We're going to be using our basic sleeve to gather it to the actual size of the person that is going to wear it. So the first flare we're going to be attaching is the lower part, so that we can use it to cover up. We can use the upper part to cover up the rough edges that we are going to be having on this midpoint. So now to attach this now, not the radius part that we are not going to be attaching the hem to this radius part, that is the smaller part of the flare which we just shaped. We'll be attaching this long part of the flare, that's the larger part, okay, the down part of the flare is what we'll be attaching to this hemline. And to attach it, I'm going to be folding this over like this. So this is the wrong side of the fabric, okay. So the wrong side of the fabric, I'm just going to be placing this on it. That's the wrong side facing the right side of the flare, the wrong side of fabric facing the right side of the flare. And then I'm going to pleat everything, all the hemline of this flare. I'm going to pleat it or gather it to fit into this small hemline of our main fabric. So I'm going to take it to the machine now and gather it. Then after gathering everything to it now, I'm going to flip it over. So I'll show us everything. I'll just go and sew this now. Okay, so I'm gonna to sew this now. This is the wrong side of the basic bodice facing the right side of the main fabric, and then I want to gather everything. So I use the pink thread so that we can see my seam lines very well. You can see I just gathered it to fit into the hemline. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my basic bodice like this, and then I'm going to fold it over so that this upper part here, I'm going to be gathering it on the midpoint that I make to make the first part of my puffiness, okay. So I'll take this to the sewing machine now also, and then I'm going to gather it. This should be easy because it's not that big, it's the small part which is the radius part. So I'm also going to be gathering this to fit. So I just want to correct what I said earlier. Remember that I shaped the lower part of this flare for the upper one here that has the calf's height, which is lower than the upper part of the sleeve. So for this second part, since it's all the same, I did not bother to shape it, okay. So the shaping I did was just for the first flare, which is going to be for this upper part. So I'll go over to the machine now and sew this. Okay, so I've sewn the upper part also now, and this is what we have, okay. So this is it. You can see our puffiness is coming out bit by bit. So this is it here. Okay, you can see the thread very well now because I used the contested thread. So the next thing to do now is to do the same thing we did here on this upper part. So now the hemline of this sleeve now, we're going to be pleating it on top of this seam line that we have here, so that it can cover up these rough edges for us. So now I'm going to be placing the fabric like this, and then I'll take the hemline, that's the right side facing the right side of this flare now. So I'm going to be pleating it to fit into this before I now fold this over again also. Okay, so I'll pleat it from here now. I'm going to pleat it, I'll pleat it, and then I'm going to fold it over. Okay, so I've gone ahead to pleat this now. You can see it on top of the lower one here, so you can see that it helped me to conceal this. So the next thing I'm just going to do now is to pleat the upper part to my armhole area. Okay, so now I've also sewn it to the armhole part, you can see. So this is the first puff and this is the second puff. So the next thing I'll do now is to shape the sides. Just take the sides together and shape it. Okay, so the sleeve have been sewn together now, and you can see this is our first layer of puffiness and this is the second layer. We're able to achieve this without using elastic to gather this. We just use the basic of this. It's very simple sleeve to make and it's really beautiful. If you enjoyed this tutorial, kindly give this a thumbs up, like, comment and subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.